Hey, this is Yang Nguyen, and you're listening to the Immi Wealth Builder podcast, where we celebrate incredible immigrant success stories, share proven strategies, and give you actionable steps to build your wealth, freedom, and a lasting legacy. Let's go get it. So if you think you need to have it all figured out before you start building something great, this episode will make you rethink everything. So many of us, especially immigrants, start over from scratch in a new country, not knowing the rules, the language, or where to even begin. So today, Alek will really show us how he moved over from Ukraine into the US in 2004, started his HVAC company, Synergy 3, with just himself, and now he leads a team of over 30 employees, won national awards, and somehow finds time to bike across Iceland and crushing Ironman. His story is wild and his mindset even better. So let's dive right into it. Alek, tell us a bit more about your journey to the US and how did you even start getting into the HVAC business?
Thank you for a very emotional introduction. You raised some great memories that definitely make me emotional because they're still raw. Those great adventures. That's why people do them, because they live inside of you and they almost never leave. But yeah, to answer your question, my father migrated to America in the early 90s, and then he applied for what's called family reunion visa when he got citizenship. And I was basically growing up at least thinking that one day, I will be in America. And it took from elementary school till I was in kind of army academy till almost, you could say, college, when I finally got the visa. So when I got the visa, none of my friends believed me because, they said that we've heard it for 15 years that you're going to leave. And so I ended up going to all of them. At that time, I had to travel to Poland, to Warsaw, to get the visa. And the visa was a big legal size envelope with my picture and my visa attached to it. And it was sealed so you can open. So I would go to my friends and I say, here's the visa, I'm leaving. And that's what it took for them to believe that I'm actually going. Yeah, so I arrived in 2004 and worked with my dad for a little bit. Mostly home remodeling, painting, remodeling bathrooms, finished basements. And then we had hard relationship even growing up. Him and my mom divorced when I was 1, and he wasn't really in my life. So it was just a lot of unresolved, baggage. And so the relationship wasn't good. And, I left and did some odd jobs. One of them is my favorite story about how I worked at Wawa. And actually, Wawa made me realize that if I ever have my company culture will not be like Wawa. Yes, we might not make the same money. Probably never will, because it's very different having good culture and making money. I started for $7.75 on the third shift. So I was working third shift. They were paying 50 cents, only 50 cents more for the third shift. Imagine that. Yeah, $7.75. So there were no respect. Our store was understaffed, very understaffed. So we had to do multiple jobs, but no one said, hey, you're actually saving us a person. You're working really hard. How about we pay you, I don't know, whatever, X? Nah. I realized that there's no future at Wawa. For me, no one cares if I work hard or if I work slow, because there were some slow workers and they got paid the same as I did. And yeah, it's a true story. I went to one of our clients that we did home remodeling. She was a wise Jewish lady. And I asked her, I said, what should I do with my life? And she said, you either go work in the Russian store, load trucks, $12 an hour they paid. And she said, you'll have a lot of hours, but there's no growth. You'll be loader for the rest of your life. Or she said, there's a guy named Igor, an HVAC that looks for people. And I asked her, what's HVAC? And she said, well, it's air conditioning. I said, okay. So I give this guy a call and he offered me $8 because I had a car, or I was about to have a car, because he needed someone to drive one of the senior guys who had multiple DUIs and he couldn't drive himself. So I was basically a driver for the Armenian guy, also immigrant, and he was drunk a lot, but he taught me a lot of things. And that's how I got into HVAC. And I think many people realizing it now that, America is really a hamster wheel. And once you get in a hamster wheel, it's very hard to stop it. You have to constantly run to make the wheel. You need wheel to keep running, so you keep living and existing, but it's very hard to get out. And that's why when people ask me why HVAC, it's not like I had a choice. It's that I had an opportunity to sit down and ask myself, what do I want to do with my life? There was no chance. If Igor was an electrician, I'd probably be the electrician today. If Igor was a plumber, I'd probably be a plumber today. I say the river of life brought me to this. It's not that I chose it, but and it's great that I was able to do something with it or about it. People ask me, what's the inspiration? I said, paying bills was my inspiration and the survival. It's not like in Ukraine where we could survive off a couple of dollars. You go to friends to eat sometimes. First thing you do, you open your, refrigerator, see what they have. You eat at one family. Then at dinner, you might go to someone else. You catch a trolley or you catch some kind of cheap Uber and you're fine. But in America, no, you can't survive like this or you'll be on the street.
Cool. So you were just sharing about how that faith that you had as a kid growing up in Ukraine and being able to just do your thing, but understanding like keep that faith alive for years before you come over to US. That is some mental resilience that I really want to point out. And I think that's what a lot of immigrants share. We have a lot of resilience just from our upbringing. Nobody leave the safety of their country to go to a whole new culture, a whole new thing just for fun. It's often to get something, to do something better for yourself, for your family. So I love that you share that. And I also really love what you share about when you came here, right? The important things that got you to your point today was just saying yes to that next opportunity. You did not know what HVAC was, but at that point, right, it checked the boxes for you. It pays the bill and it get you to the next step. One thing I always believe that Steve Jobs said is that it's hard to connect the dots looking forward, but it makes sense when you connect the dots looking backwards. So to your point, right, it's not like, man, I'm going to do this. I'm going to build this company and having all this success. At that point, it fits the bill. It pays your living expense and you say yes to it. And then you figure out the next step and you keep going. So that's something I really want the audience to take away. If you're in a space of trying to figure out what's next, say yes to that next opportunity, knowing you can change your mind, knowing that you have whatever it takes to keep going. So I really want the audience to take that away. The third thing that I really want the audience to take away was what you share about your culture, and that's going to tie into our next question, what you share about working at Wawa. For a lot of us, right, we probably have challenges at the workplace, at family. There's a lot of those. Those can be your biggest downfall or propelling you to the next opportunity. So your experience at Wawa was challenging. It was definitely what you did not want to have at a workplace, and that really propelled you to then grow Synergy into where it is today with a great culture. So I really love that you turned that experience of hardship, of just not wanting to be in that place, into what you want to create. So that was amazing, Alek. Before we dive into a bit in culture, I want to talk a little bit about how you start growing Synergy 3. Tell me about that next step from being on your own, one person, into who was that next hire to grow the company.
Yeah, so that's going to tie perfectly in what you just mentioned about saying yes. So what happened is actually I started working as a subcontractor for a big new construction company called Thermal Design in Marlboro, New Jersey. I lived in Middlesex County in North Brunswick in New Jersey, and then got a call from one of the project managers to come out to look at the new construction job site in Pennsylvania. And he asked me, can you handle it? It's going to be 300 homes, he said. And I said, sure. Like, when do I start? He said, okay, whatever, start tomorrow. So I assembled some guys, and he said, you starting this house, and then there's a crew from the guys from Lithuania or Latvia, they're starting this house. And I said, sure, great. The truth was that I had no idea what to do. Poor people that bought those houses that I did, they're probably complaining till this day. So I said, okay, what can I do? I can sit here and wait till those guys finish. Then I'm going to sneak out in their model because it's the same model. I'm going to see how are they running their ductwork? How are they setting this up? So I'm sitting there, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. It's getting dark. 7 o'clock. I'm like, damn, those guys are monsters. They're still working. I don't want to say it was 8, but it was very dark. So they finally left. It was like, great. So I go in their house and I started with the notepad. I started copying. I believe some time passed and somehow we got into those conversations and they started laughing. I say, what are you guys laughing? And they said, we were actually sitting and waiting till you leave so we can go and copy what you're doing because we didn't know either. They said, when we saw you not leaving, we said, okay, screw it. We're just going to leave. So I would sit them because I guess I needed it more than they needed it. But that yes really changed the course of my life because I ended up, relocating to Philadelphia because Hurricane Katrina happened. The gas went up. I don't know if you remember, I think it was about $4 or $5 a gallon or something crazy.
Yeah.
But I was paying so much for gas and so much time I was spending. And at that time I met my first wife and she moved from Philly to live with me in New Jersey. And she said, listen, you're driving almost back to Philly. What are we doing here? So let's move to Philadelphia. And that's how I ended up in Philadelphia and continued to do that job site with some guys. The principle was we would do what's called roughing. We would do ductwork, running line set pipes, set the unit up. But the thermal design in-house people would come in and tie everything in and do a startup and check everything. So then 2008 happened, or close to 2008 when the market collapsed. I came to the job site and they said, no more. I'm like, what do you mean no more? I forgot how many homes they did, 100 maybe. And they said, no one's buying the houses. Don't you watch the news? I was like, what news? I said it angrily with the big accent. I work here. I need job. And
yes.
And he said, go home. And I ended up, at home and I started offering myself. And then they said, can you do everything? We don't need ductwork guys. We need guys that can do everything. And I said, no, I can't. So I started looking if there's any HVAC schools around. I found a school in Bristol called Penco Tech. And I went in there, signed up so I can learn, how to do everything from A to Z. Honestly, didn't learn much about HVAC because it's a separate podcast.
Well, school doesn't teach you what you need to know to do your work.
Yes, but I learned a great deal of English. I'm glad I did because I was forced to speak almost every day. And I'm very, grateful for that and learned technical words and technical language because those words I've never known in Ukraine. So I couldn't know them. The HPC was not my interest. And one of the teachers said, hey, there's a guy, he thought he was Russian, who is in another class, go and talk to him. And that was my long-term partner, Dimitar. I went to the cafeteria, said hello. He said hello, and we started talking and found common ground that he also didn't think good things about the school and saw that he was very technical, which I was lacking. He came on board, so he was the number 2. From there, we've started doing different jobs, and then we realized, hey, we need a helper, and then we weren't able to keep up with this, with that. Then we hired another guy, and then we asked the guy to form a crew. So then there were 2 people and then 2 of us. And yes, it is, in a sense, slow, organic, but slow growth. But to be totally honest, I think not till like 21 where I seriously realized that where we were good enough to have some kind of a free time in my head to stop and really think, okay, not just work, kind of deal with conveyor, but actually look away from the business, what it is, what it needs, how to get there. 2020, of course, made everybody stop, but it actually changed course of our business. I think if COVID would not happen, we wouldn't be here today in the shape that our business is today versus when we were 2020, because it allowed us to do so much to work on the business, not in the business. For example, we completely remodeled almost the entire office. We built our training and meeting room. We looked at our inventory differently. We looked at our trucks differently. So we were able to do all this work that all these years we wanted to do, but there was never time. And spoiler alert to all the business owners, there will be no time. So when we think that, hey, this is going to be next Monday or next Tuesday, somehow something happens on Mondays and Tuesdays and it's still work, but you need a hard stop.
You got to make the time.
To make the time and to make the change.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many good points you brought up, and I have so many follow-up questions. But one thing I want to point the audience to was that you use almost all the big setbacks into an opportunity for growth. You figure out what is missing, which is you decided you're going to go to school, learn the whole process. And then next thing, when COVID happened, another setback, right? You use that as an opportunity to propel yourself forward and grow the company. That's amazing. And I really want our audience to take out of it is that whatever challenge you're going through right now, that could be the next thing that propel you for growth. That when you look back, you're like, wow, yeah, we did that, right? So if you're going through some hard time, definitely consider that this could be an opportunity for you to transform into the next thing. The second point that I really want to emphasize is in order to grow to where you're at, right? You can't do it alone. You found a partner that has a complementary skills to what you need and that you guys share kind of similar core values, which I guess in that case was just how much you hate the school.
Yes.
But that was a great comment if you guys see it the same way and then you have complementary skills. That was a very good partnership to then propel you to grow. One thing I want to follow as a question, and I know maybe a lot of business owners are running to this, is as you growing your company, right? Before you could take a step back and figure out all this training, when you keep hiring people, what does that look like? Like, is there any tip and strategy that you have on hiring and training? Because I know that's what often stop a lot of business owner from growing, which is the control, like nobody can do it as good as I do. And then how do I train my next employee to do things the way I do? Yeah, just give us more, whatever you learn about that process.
Sure. I don't think I had an issue with letting it go. I think I had an issue with taking responsibility because for me, hiring someone is a very serious step. And I looked at a responsibility. So I was probably prematurely afraid of then if, let's say, I hire someone for this position and this position is not, let's say we can't support it, right? Let's say I say now I want a CFO. So I hire $150,000 a year CFO, and then 3 months in, I can't support him. So then I would have to sit down with that person and say, you know what, a guy, you changed your careers, but sorry, I made a miscalculation because I'm not a mathematician and hey, I have to let you go. So for me, this was the case. And the way I see it, the two types of strategies, you either hire for growth, which I've always done. And it's irritating a little bit for the business owner because you're not going to see a full profit potential from the company when you hire for growth. And what I mean by that is, for example, we didn't have anybody in the warehouse. I was the warehouse person and the purchasing person, and now we have two. And I hired them before there was even a need for them. So I knew that it's not going to produce for me any good net income outcome for some time. It's a lot like that with any pure overhead positions, is that it's probably 6 months to a year when the person is really starting to produce for you. And then if they're good, then it'll take probably another year to start getting your money back on that investment. Another strategy would be to wait till you're really overwhelmed and then hire. And that's what I was told by one of the good CFOs that I met. And he said, listen, if someone is coming to you and asking, hey, can I have a help in my department? You look if they work overtime themselves. If they don't work overtime themselves, you tell them no. If they do, and it's constant, then you tell them yes. I keep that in my head sometimes, and that's what I looking myself to recognize now for decisions that I'm about to make. Hiring evolved so much from me at first, just any candidate that I look at their resume that I kind of like, I would invite him for in person. And now it's so opposite. We're only bringing you for in-person interview when we almost 90% sure that you are our person. And the way we're doing that is now we have a third-party company that have a software that they do all the advertisement for us. We get the resumes, we grade the resume, and then they send a video interview first. It's about 10 questions. We looked at the video interview. You can tell a lot about the person in 10 minutes, even 15, when they answer questions. Then they do a lengthy assessment. It's about 1.5 to 2 hours. An assessment tells us a lot about their abilities and their character, and with the scores. And the company suggests 0% for a good hire, 10%, 50%, or 70 or 100% for good hire. And then you make decision if you agree with their assessment or you don't. And there were instances where we agreed, there were instances where we disagreed. And then we ask person to come for interview. We interviewing them, and then there's few people in the room. Before it was just me, because again, I'm also changed, evolved. I wanted to make all decisions. Now I don't want to make any decisions. I want to be a part of a decision, but not to be like every decision maker. Of course, the final saying is mine, but it's few people present in the room, and then we share our opinion because they will be working with the person much more day to day than I am. And then I think the biggest thing that helped me as a business owner is setting what we call a 30-day test. We have 2 onboarding manuals or materials on the specific subjects. And then everybody, including even our dispatcher, who's like next to me right now behind the wall, he must pass this test, at least with 70% score, to stay within the company. And the reason is that it shows me what they're here for. If they're here for the paycheck, they will never pass the test. And there were people that didn't pass the test and they were let go. And if they're here more than for the paycheck, they'll study and they will pass. And then for some of the positions, there's a 90-day test. We have people right now who passed, and we have people right now who didn't pass because, maybe they were really enthusiastic the first 30 days. And then they're like, okay, time to put the brakes on. For a business, there's no time to put the brakes on. So we need everybody with their full concentration every day. And I think those are my biggest innovations that really removed my feelings mostly out of the equation. Here's what you can expect. That's your job, depends on you passing those 2 tests. Wow. They're purely based on materials that you have to study day one.
Wow. I love that you share about the 2 ways of hiring, right? Whether you're hiring for growth, wherever you think the company is heading, you don't have the pain point when you get there. But to your point, it is a risk, right? You could potentially either did not have the capacity to support this person long term, or you just, hey, actually, I don't think I even need this right now. So I love that you mentioned now seeing if there is a pain point there first before you consider hiring to solve that pain point. I also love hearing that you rely on your team to help make the decisions. And that's how you slowly removing yourself from a lot of day-to-day decisions. So that's really smart. Tell me a little bit about the other side of it. You have these tests for people. You really seem like very stringent with the candidate. I assume that on the other side of that is the company have a lot to offer, not only in salary, but also in the working environment, right? I guess 2 specific questions. 1, how do you think about building culture? 2, what do you see that most business owners right now get wrong about the culture?
Yes, I think I answer the second question first. I see that I think at least that they think of that as unnecessary expense. For example, in my business, I can save a lot of money if I remove all of these cultural elements that we do. And I don't mean it $1,000. I mean tens of thousands of dollars can go directly to my pocket, and I choose not to do so. And I knew it would get expensive, and I'm very curious, I say it openly, how long can I sustain it? And maybe the corporate is not corporate greed, but corporate smart. Who knows, maybe they have tried this and they didn't succeed because they couldn't sustain it. The owners are looking at it as not necessary. But the people that come here, most of it they heard from someone else, and they see all the celebrations that we do. For example, team member of the month. So in our company, team member of the month gets $500. So now let's multiply that by 12. So that's $6,000 right there, right? Most reviews, the technician or office person who gets most Google reviews, if it's over 10, it's another 500. That's another $6,000. Cleanest truck every month Yeah, it's a little bit less. It's 200. That's another $2,400. Then every person for their birthday gets a personal cake made by a very talented cake maker. We buy champagne to celebrate you, right? Another expense is anniversary bonus. If you're here every year, it's another 500. So now let's multiply, have 30 people times 500. How much is that? 15,000. So we had 6 and 6, 12, 15, 27 plus clinic shock, another, let's say 3. So $30,000.
Yeah.
I'm deliberately not putting in my personal bank account, and I'm spending it on something that you cannot see. Nothing is free. You can get the award for free, so you have to pay. You can get the cake for free. You can get champagne for free. So it's all costs money. This year, I introduced a mental wellness policy where if you go to therapy, let's say if you have our medical insurance, we'll pay your copays, unlimited amount. If you go 10 times to therapist, we'll pay your copays. So let's say it's 400 a month. I have, let's say 10 people sign up. That's another $4,000, right? I see a big value in people doing that. And I know that if you tell someone, hey, put 400 out of pocket, it's easier for me to say. It's not so much easier for someone. I control my own income. I can say this month I'm making this much and I'm taking this much. And unfortunately, my people can say that. So for me, it's easier to say, oh, it's only $400. And sometimes I say that, they look at me like, and I'm like, yeah, it's for me and for them, it's different amount. We have 401k with the match, right? We have company birthday when we don't work. We spend all day here, but people get paid. You know, we have company picnic where we do it mostly for the kids. So it's also costs money. Our Christmas party last year, I believe I paid close to 8 or 9,000 for a Christmas party. And then you look at our competitors that bring people to a diner and put a paper plate in front of them. If you're putting a paper plate in front of a person, this is what's your company worth. If you're giving someone an award, and it's made out of A4 paper, that's what they're going to take, that it's worth nothing. If you give someone $50 for anniversary bonus, they might even get offended. They're saying, oh, so my year here worth $50 to you? Okay, I'll show it to you. What I like is that it's very genuine. It's not forced. It's not like mandatory. Like, hey, you have to do it and you have to smile. It's genuine because people volunteer a lot for organizing those events. And I always say they don't have to, but the people year after year volunteer, and because they enjoy it and they want to make it better for themselves to have a
I love that.
Really good day.
I think it is rare for a small company to have a culture. And what really came across for me as you were sharing is that all of these things, yes, it costs you capital, but I can really hear that you want to treat your employee with respect. You really want to appreciate them for all the work that they've done for the company and for the work that they are continue to do for the company. So I'm really hearing from you as you think about setting the culture is that what you can do to show employees that they are respected, that are appreciated, and then that is aligned with your company's culture. So it's not about like, oh, let's go spend a bunch of money on a lot of these different things that don't align with your core values. You choose to spend it on picnics with family where you get to know other people's kids, really connect outside of just work, right? I love that you share also about these awards that are aligned with what you want to bring to customers, right? You don't want to show up to a customer with a dirty van.
100%.
So that was a part that you set that award to align with your company's goal. And also mental health. Mental health is one of those things that is sometimes it's hard to see, right? It's not a sickness, it's not a fever, but it's there. And it's very important that people address it. Culture, yes, it may be expensive, but it may not need to be if you keep aligning your core values, how you want to treat your people with respect, with appreciation, and then you can set the culture that reflects that. So I really love that you share a lot of those things that you're doing for the company there. I can chat with you forever about businesses because there's so many things I want to learn. So I can chat you forever about this. But I definitely want to switch gear a little bit to talk about your health and your training for Ironman and your biking.
Yeah.
Because that's something I really want to show other immigrants and also business owners that there's always seasons in life, right? There are seasons that you heads down, you keep working, you keep doing the best that you can. And there are seasons when like, okay, can I pick my heads up and look at life more than just money and work? And so you're at the phase right now when your health is very important to you. What are some of those maybe non-negotiable health habits that keep you performing at your best, both physically and mentally?
Some of the people who know me, they know me from that. But in reality, I'm more of a biohacker than I am a business owner because I spend most of the days biohacking. It started actually, with the standing desk. It's another investment that I made in the company. All people in the office have a stand-up desk, and it's considerably a higher cost again for me to have it, but I couldn't have it for myself and see the huge benefit and then say, no, let them sit, let them sleep, let them, have back pain and be drowsy versus being energetic. But some of the non-negotiables, number one is sleep. Like I'll fight you for a good sleep. With my beautiful fiance, I think this is the only disagreements we had when we met because she was a night owl and, she was fighting me. She was calling me old man. It's like, I've never seen a guy who goes to bed before 10 o'clock. Well, what are you, old? It was really hard. So sleep is huge. What I eat is huge. I think my accountant noticed one time that I ate the same salad for lunch for 90 days, and it must have been true. And I know it sounds robotic. Like I looked at it as a fuel versus pleasure, and also cuts any unnecessary time waste of what to order today, where to order from. I have a very strict morning routine, starts with me drinking a lot of water, and doing meditation for 15-20 minutes, doing special neck exercises and doing some special hip exercises. Those are two areas that are very weak points of mine. Then I have 3 stacks of supplements. Morning stack is the biggest, probably about 30-40 pills in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Probably another 10 during the day and probably another 10 before night. The whole day I might take 60 supplements.
That's a lot. Wow.
It's a lot, yes. And it's changing, it's evolving. I have lots of gadgets for sleep, gadgets for recovery. My biggest investment, I just bought hyperbaric oxygen chamber.
Oh, really?
That's
Wow.
the biggest investment in my health, and seeing, what to invest if not my health.
So we're going to switch to one last mystery question. This is a question that was left behind by our previous guest. And your mystery question is, what was a risk that you took that paid off?
What was the risk that I took that paid off? I bought a piece of land in Philadelphia on Marshall Street. I bought it off the auction because a guy next to me at the auction bought the next lot. And I said, okay, he probably knows something you don't. And I risked it and I bought it. And I went to Dimitar, my partner, and he yelled at me and said, why did you buy this? It's an empty street. And I said, yeah, because the guy next to me bought it and it really paid off. And yeah, honestly, that's been the mantra of mine, is that any action is better than no action. Even if it leads to failure, it's still better than doing anything. When I didn't do anything, it actually led to more negative outcomes and negative feelings than when I did something, even if I didn't succeed.
I love that. Always taking action. Because entrepreneurship and business ownership is like a linear line, but it zigzags a lot. And like I said, if you keep taking action, it's going to get you closer to that goal that you want to go than just sitting there and figure out what is the next best path, right? So I love that you took that risk, bought a lot, and that paid off.
Yes.
And then continue to take action. I love that. Tell the audience how they can get in touch with you, follow your journey, and see what you got to.
LinkedIn, if you're a professional, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Alek Ivanov on LinkedIn, or email alek@synergy3.com.
Awesome.
I promise I'll reply.
Awesome. I'll link all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here today, Alek. It was amazing chatting with you, and I would just love to ask you more questions. And so we may set a follow-up, but this has been amazing.
Please.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. You too.